Somewhere in a garage in Burbank, California, there are 4 machines that should not exist. Not rare, not expensive, not collectible in any normal sense of that word. Wrong. One runs on a jet engine pulled from a helicopter. One is powered by a World War II tank motor that drinks fuel faster than a small aircraft. One can run on perfume, and one survived a factory fire that destroyed nearly every other example like it on the planet. These are not cars that pushed boundaries. These are cars that ignored boundaries entirely. And the reason none of them ever went into production is the same reason all of them ended up in Jay Leno's garage. Nobody else knew what to do with them. When we say a car should not exist, we do not mean it is rare. Plenty of rare cars exist. Limited production runs, low numbers, 1 of 50, 1 of 20. That is not what these are. These machines broke the fundamental rules of what a car is allowed to be. Some were too dangerous for public roads. Some consumed resources at rates that made them economically insane. Some represented engineering paths that the industry decided were too strange to follow. And some were nearly erased from history completely before anyone understood what they were. They survived not because the industry wanted them to. They survived in spite of the industry. And Jay Leno, a man who has spent 40 years collecting machines that the rest of the world discarded, has 4 of the most extreme examples ever built sitting in his garage right now. This is their story.
In 1963, Chrysler did something that no major American manufacturer had ever done before or has since. They built 55 cars with jet turbine engines and gave them to ordinary Americans to drive. Not test drivers, not engineers, not government officials, school teachers, farmers, office workers, people who had responded to a newspaper advertisement asking if they wanted to drive the future for 90 days. The Chrysler Turbine car had no pistons, no cylinders, no timing chain, nothing that any mechanic in 1963 had ever touched before. Instead, it had a turbine spinning at 44,600 revolutions per minute, driving through a reduction gear to the rear wheels. And it would run on almost anything. Diesel fuel, obviously, but also kerosene, jet fuel, heating oil, vegetable oil. A Mexican government official famously filled one with tequila during a demonstration tour, and it ran without complaint. It was quieter than any piston engine of its era. It had almost no mechanical complexity compared to a conventional drivetrain. The moving parts count was dramatically lower than anything else on the road, and Chrysler destroyed nearly all of them. Of the 55 built, 46 were crushed and shredded under an agreement with the United States government that allowed Chrysler to import the turbine components duty-free only if they were not sold commercially. The technology that could run on perfume was destroyed because of a tax agreement. 9 survived. Jay Leno owns one. He drives it. In 2006, Jay Leno approached General Motors with a question that most people would not have dared to ask out loud. What if we put a helicopter turbine in a car and actually drove it on public roads? GM said yes. The EcoJet was built over 2 years using a Honeywell turbine engine originally designed for military helicopter applications, the same type of engine that powers aircraft, producing 650 horsepower and running on biodiesel fuel. The problems were immediate and extraordinary. The exhaust temperature at the rear of the car exceeded 1,600 degrees Fahrenheit. Not the engine temperature, the exhaust. The air coming out of the back of the car was hot enough to melt aluminum and set asphalt on fire at a standstill. The titanium components required for the exhaust system cost more than most production cars sold for new. The turbine required several seconds to spool up from idle to full power, meaning the car had a throttle response characteristic unlike any piston engine vehicle. You pressed the accelerator, and then you waited. And then, suddenly, you had 650 horsepower. GM engineers who worked on the project were unanimous in their assessment. Brilliant, completely impractical, never going into production. Jay Leno drove it anyway. He still does.
At some point in the process of designing a vehicle, someone is supposed to ask a practical question. Randy Grubb never asked that question. The Blastolene Special was built around a Continental AV1790 engine. The same engine used to power the M47 Patton tank, a 29-liter V12 that produced 810 horsepower and consumed fuel at a rate that made long-distance driving economically equivalent to operating a small aircraft. The car weighs 6,000 pounds. It is 20 feet long. The engine alone weighs more than most complete small cars. It has no meaningful trunk space, no practical storage, no concession to the requirements of daily transportation. It was built because Randy Grubb wanted to know what would happen if you put a tank engine in a car-shaped object and drove it on public roads. What happened was Jay Leno saw it at a car show and bought it immediately. He has described driving it as the most intimidating automotive experience of his life. A man who owns 130 cars and has driven virtually everything ever built by human hands said the Blastolene Special frightened him. That is the only review you need. In February 1957, a fire broke out in the Jaguar factory in Coventry, England. It burned for hours. When it was over, 9 completed XKSS cars had been destroyed, along with the tooling and components for several more. The XKSS was a Le Mans racing car, the D-type that had won the 24 Hours of Le Mans 3 consecutive years, converted to minimal street legality by adding a windshield, a rudimentary hood, and a passenger seat. It was one of the fastest road-legal cars on the planet in 1957. After the fire, only 16 examples existed. They went to drivers who could actually use them. Steve McQueen owned one and drove it regularly on the streets of Los Angeles until California made it effectively impossible to register. He kept it anyway. The XKSS survived because the people who had them refused to give them up, not because Jaguar protected them, not because anyone recognized immediately what had been lost, because 16 people held on to machines that the rest of the world had forgotten about. Jay Leno's example is one of the most original surviving specimens in existence. He has said it is one of the few cars in his collection that he considers genuinely irreplaceable. Not because of its value, because of what it represents.
A direct connection to a moment in automotive history when building the most extreme possible thing was considered a legitimate answer to the question of what a car should be. These 4 machines have almost nothing in common. Different eras, different countries, different engineering philosophies, different reasons for existing. But they share one characteristic that explains why all of them ended up in the same garage. They were built by people who did not ask permission first. Modern car manufacturing has eliminated that process entirely. Every vehicle that reaches production today has been approved by committees and reviewed by compliance teams and tested against liability frameworks and optimized for fleet average fuel economy calculations. Nothing gets built that has not been pre-approved to exist, which is why nothing built today will ever end up in a collection like Jay Leno's garage, because everything built today was designed to be acceptable, and acceptable things do not change what is possible. They just fill the space between what already exists. Drop a comment telling us which of these 4 machines you would drive if you had the chance. Hit subscribe. There is more of this history coming. The kind that should not exist, but does anyway.